In this life, people assume a variety of social identities, and they are powerful forces in a person's feeling of meaning in life. But they often move like a wave through communities and culture that we live in, but often we don't take the time to analyze them. We're like a man who's having a heart attack, but we can't really remove ourselves from the pain. We're just in it, and we can't really just think about the heart attack. What follows in this video is in no way comprehensive, but it is an attempt to point out things that I've noticed, and which I fear maybe go unnoticed. I could, of course, be wrong about this and a jillion other things, so this isn't in any way definitively proven, but these are just my observations. So just judge for yourself, please, as always. Now, as we came of age in the late 90s and the early O's, there was like a definite mood. At least in America, it felt like we were all anti-mainstream to the core. So some people had it worse than others, and I was one of those people. MTV had a show called Daria, where the head cheerleader, it was a cartoon, the head cheerleader and the football captain were portrayed as like the biggest possible losers. And the feeling I had at that time then was that MTV was just trying to cash in on movements that were already at full steam and like yesterday's news among us young people. The show felt like they were taking great effort to make points that everybody already knows. That's at least how I felt then. I was a skateboarder, but I was also into the melodic, metalcore, HXC, emo scene of music. Which, by the way, as far as I can tell, was the last real progression in music of which I'm aware. I'm hoping for something new to come along soon. Now, the musical scene was like this. We would pay $5 to see bands that screamed. And most people, it wasn't popular or cool. Like, it wasn't accepted. Like, there was no one who would feel like a loser for not liking it. But within that community, we were all about it, right? So, like, every band was Christian. And everyone in the audience was a straight edge, which generally meant they were an atheist who didn't drink or do drugs. That was the way it, like, always was. And, today you have secular bands by the oodles and boodles of noodles that basically copy the sound, but they do a terrible job of it. Okay? Here's some of the terms we used to use back then. We would say things like, that's so mainstream, or we'd say, I'm a nonconformist, or this one really got played out. This band or this song, sounds so generic. It's just generic. And the straight edge thing had like so many artistic expressions. So like online names that people had would like have X's on before and after, or they would so and so X Screamo Chick X, like stuff like that. Okay. Or they'd put an X on your hand when you paid to go in the concert. That was instead of a wristband, just put an X on your hand. All right. Now it's hard to really express the prevalence of this mood and how it was everywhere. It's hard for me to really put that to words. So perhaps the simplest way is an example. Nobody watched the Super Bowl. If you did, then you were looked down on. In fact, just this year, in 2016, I went to play Halo, because my friend had Halo 5, and so we finally were able to get together one Sunday night. Happened to be Super Bowl Sunday. He's a friend of mine who was in a HXC band back then. Okay? When I came to his house, the Super Bowl was on his TV, and he immediately just made an apology that it was on the TV and an explanation for why it was. He apologized. Like, he gave me a sincere apology and explanation. Now, I didn't have an issue with that. But perhaps that will give you an idea of the social climate. If you were to actually have a Super Bowl party, I mean, who are you? Like, there's no way to express how much of a loser you are. Like why don't we take you in the middle of the street and beat you with a stick? So I'm hoping that like you're able to grasp the social climate of the time. Now, around 2004, the community began to like reflect on itself and point out that we were taking things too far. So you started to hear it online and in everyday life kind of around the same time. And the first word I heard that was like a derogatory name or term related to this was scenester. And it mostly related to going to concerts. The next year I heard the word hipster for the first time with a similar usage, although it was broader. It was more like in every area of life. But it had a meaning of someone who takes the anti-mainstream, straight-edge thing too far. So it wasn't a good thing to be called. Okay, typically people called somebody that behind their back. Okay, and for example, I have a friend who still fits into that category. Irony. Okay, when The Dark Knight came out, he made a point to tell me that it was not a good movie. Now, he usually doesn't need to tell me what movies he sees, but he did this time. The Dark Knight is a really good movie. But if you understand the insane obsession with being anti-mainstream, then you understand why the word hipster came to be. It wasn't a good thing to say about a person. I mean, I don't know, it's been a long time, but that's how it came about. And that's the mood and the prevalent attitude at the time. Now, this analysis should lead us to a simple conclusion. Just because something is mainstream does not mean it is bad. So the hipsters, I guess if we'll use that term, oppose the idea that popularity equals good. And that is a very important truth. That's true. But it got taken to the point of having a hard time admitting that anything popular can possibly be good. It's kind of hard to navigate these waters. I mean, it seems like no matter where you go, you're like Odysseus in his ship, and monster on one side and monster on the other side, and it's like impossible to go the right way. But we should remember how Jesus handled it. First of all, he did not try to control what people thought of him. He put the truth about himself out there as clearly as possible. A few people got it, but by far most understood him. Most people labeled him in some category that they already had, instead of seeing him for who he really was. Instead of doing more and more ridiculous and dramatic things to get people to accept him or see him the way that he wanted, he died for their sins. So yeah, Jesus is amazing, and I'm hoping that you can just admit it a little bit. Alright. Now, it has been shown to me that California is giving us a new term to describe a different problem. It's called cool people. And I can't find much reference to it online, apparently, but the internet oftentimes can be behind, even still today. Now, to explain it, let's use the example that was used for me. In California, skateboarding is huge. And so let's say you're skating a spot or a park with other people that you don't really know. And you're killing it. You're just destroying the spot, okay? Someone there and yourself really hit it off. And you think maybe you'll become friends. You even exchange phone numbers that day. Then a few days later, you hit up the dude. Now here's the key. He does not hit back. Nothing. No reply. Okay? So how do you feel at that point? What's going on here? This guy qualifies as a cool person. Now of course there may be other reasons that a person may not hit back. I mean, obviously if we're talking a male and female dialogue or something like that, then that's a situation with a lot of other factors. And I don't want anyone to get the wrong idea. But let's examine this cool person phenomenon in more detail. A cool person is someone who considers it more important that people want or desire to hang out with him or her than actually hanging out with friends. You see that difference? So this person will do all sorts of stuff to make you think you're really good friends, and then later send signals that you're not such good friends. One moment you think you're the best homies ever, and the next minute you don't get invited to something when everyone else was invited and there. And somehow you've been made aware that that other thing that you were invited to happened. But it would be it's a setup where it's beyond awkward for you to say anything. That's because it's more important to this person, the cool person, that people want to hang out than actually hanging out. Okay. A problem with the cool person issue is that it's contagious. It tends to catch other people. And this is what bothers me about it. And this is probably one of the reasons I'm making this video, is because it has there's a strong tendency to return the favor and try to make the cool person think that you have other friends that are more awesome, and you kind of aren't worried if you hang out with them, you know. Alright? Another problem is that even if you don't think that way, everything you do will be seen that way by the cool person. They have a hard time thinking that anyone exists who isn't playing their game. Now, the cool person will also try to play a game of cool points. So if you are someone who he or she perceives to be cool, then they will try to buddy up to you and like hang out with you a lot. This is because he or she believes that you are cooler, and they will actually literally feel like they have to respect that out of respect for your coolness. Like they feel like it's like act of dedication. Okay? It's weird. Alright? Again, they think everyone is playing their game. They think it's the only game to play. Okay? Eventually, the situation will be turned around on you, though. Okay? But before that happens, they're going to make it a point to let other people know that you hang out with them. And they will also make sure other people feel excluded. That's kind of the entire point. Making people feel excluded and left out makes the cool person feel wanted. They value that over spending any real time with friends. Okay? Not that they don't want to spend real time with friends, but more important is that. Okay? Eventually, you will come to believe that this person is a real friend. And that's when it's going to turn all around. Okay? You will hit them up to hang out, and they will not care what you're doing tonight. They don't hit back nothing. Okay? And it's not going to be just one time because you are under the impression that they're a real friend, so you give them the benefit of a doubt over and over and over and over and over again. And then that continually, they don't hit back nothing. They've moved up the cool ladder, and like now you're beneath them. Okay? The difficulty with this type of situation is that it is very passive-aggressive. So in other words, you have a hard time confronting the issue because the cool person is always going to be able to deny it, and she can just pretend to not even know what you're talking about. And also, when you do confront this issue, then he or she really will get the message that you just don't want to be left out, and that's exactly what they wanted. So that's like they're even cooler, and you're even less cool. Because however cool you are, they're above that. You see, okay. So they will plan social functions and like make it a point for you in some way to be aware of it, but also not invited. Alright? They probably would love for you to ask, to invite yourself. Now, if you do what your mama told you and you don't invite yourself, to other people's things, because that's rude, the cool person, that you're just going to be left out, So the cool person, they don't want you to feel hated because that would almost make you too cool. They want you to feel forgotten. Okay? So if you understand that, then you get the concept. I take the time to point all of this out because if we don't see it, then we may not realize the traps we fall into. The cool person doesn't hate you or not want you around. Rather, he or she wants you to want to be his or her friend. It's more important to this person that you want to be friends than actually being friends. Okay? Now the real question is how to deal with it. The first thing is to identify it. Once you have, then it will become more and more obvious what's going on. And it won't be so confusing. Okay? If this person keeps swinging between being best friends with you to totally ignoring you, then that's a big giveaway. Okay? Now of course there are exceptions. Sometimes, in boy-girl stuff, when romance is brewing, between two people, that's just as much about what is not said as what is said a lot of the time. That's really another thing altogether. So to crystallize the cool person thing, this may help you understand the issue. It revolves around one question. What are you doing tonight? Or where, what are you doing tonight? Okay? There typically has to be a flip-flop where sometimes you're friends and sometimes you're forgotten. Now this can be more difficult to me, in my estimation, if you're a woman. Okay? Because sadly, women tend to be cool or uncool purely based on how they look. And so how they look is this constant unchanging factor. Whereas a man, he's valued more typically for what he does. So in my example for me, I'm a man and I'm a skateboarder. So like I can literally pick up my skateboard and become super cool where people feel like they're not cool enough to talk to me. And it happens all the time and it's weird. Okay? But then I can like put my board down and become a huge loser. Right? So this becomes like a super handy tool for me to like get a look inside people. You know, see how they respond. And I get to see like the two faces that people have. But for a woman, the issue, it could be like a little longer process because she doesn't switch between being cool and uncool. She's just constantly cool because of how she looks. Okay. It may take a while for the cool person to turn the tables on her. So women get valued more on how they look instead of what they do, and that is dumb. Okay. The reality is that there are 3.5 billion females, and some of them are the worst people ever, and some of them are the best people ever, and most of them are somewhere in between. I mean, you know, there's a giant range. Like, you know, to say that like it doesn't matter what a person does is really creepy and horrible. Okay. Now the females are handy because they can help you spot the cool people. Alright? It doesn't matter if you're male or female. The female presence can help you spot the cool people. In other words, to the cool person, females bring like this instantaneous coolness to a situation, and it's as ridiculous as a can of spray on hair. Alright? When you get a chance to observe it and like kind of just see what's going on, it can become like this amazing source of comedy. Okay? It gets hilarious. Okay? They will immediately feel that some scene, you know, social scene is better whenever there are chicks there. And these girls might be the worst people ever, but it won't matter to the cool person. I mean, they may be total strangers that they don't know, but who cares? You know, chicks equals cool, right? And that's true for the female cool person as well as the male, right? They're going to feel like they have to hang around the chicks too, cause like the cool folk. I mean, it's just like, it's hilarious, okay? Alright. Now, there's a creepy aspect to this, and it's that serious relationships can get involved in the whole thing. So, the cool person will value the cool status achieved by dating so-and-so more than actually valuing the person. And that goes on. We've all seen it more than once, you know, over the years. And usually, I mean, that's just plain scary because it devalues a person. But usually, the only person who can really know if this is an issue is the other person who's actually in the relationship. Everyone else is kind of just guessing. Okay? Now, after listening to all this, you may realize that it's all around you and may be horrified. We really have to thank California for giving us this term to help us point it out and help us be aware. And again, the life of Jesus is helpful. Okay? He was willing to associate himself with anyone. He loved everyone. He valued real friendship over people's desire for him. Now that may sound strange to you. I mean, doesn't Jesus want us to desire him? Of course he does. But here's the key difference. Anyone, and I mean anyone, who came to Jesus was never, ever turned away. As long as they came in spirit and in truth. And my friends, that is a gospel in itself.